You're all welcome once again to Science Ghetto. And today in our episode, we are looking at laboratory management and entrepreneurship. That is involves the marketing of laboratory services. Now, the aim of laboratory marketing is to identify the needs of customers so well that the product or services sells itself. According to the general principles of good laboratory management, the first thing that one has to do is to identify the needs of customers and stakeholders and how to satisfy these needs of the customers or the stakeholders. And we can be able to do that through what we call the marketing analysis. Now, with the marketing analysis, we need to identify them in two forms. That is, what is the marketing? How do we identify, or what is marketing in general? And then what is marketing analysis? So a market refers to all the buyers and sellers of a particular product under a specific area under a consideration. And the market analysis refers to a qualitative and a quantitative study of a particular market. Now, the market for a particular product will vary depending on the locality. That is, the market can be Asia, Africa, Australia. It can be a town, it could be a city, it could be a rural area or a village. And therefore, there is a need for us to identify the needs of customers and be able to satisfy these needs. Now, the question you want to ask yourself is, how do I identify these needs of customers? So there are certain tools that we need to be able to identify the needs of customers. And these tools are what we refer to as the size of the market, the volume of the market, the value of the market, the targeted customers, the competitors, and barriers that comes with your marketing strategy. Now, you want to ask yourself that what is the size or the volume of the market? This refers to the total number of transactions of a particular test under a period of consideration. That is normally a year. Now, you want to ask yourself, what is the value of the market? Now, the value of the market refers to the total monetary value of the particular product or services. So, based on the number of products that you sold, multiplied by the amount, the number of products against the amount should tell you the monetary value that comes against it. Now, you should go to identify your targeted customers. And your targeted customers are those that the laboratory identified as people that are potential buyers or prospect buyers who could purchase the products or the services. Now, we need to look at competitors. Now, competitors are other companies or other services that are being provided same as yours. So in this case, we could have direct competitors and indirect competitors. However, as we go forward, we'll look more detailed into what the competitors are. Then we look at barriers. Some examples of barriers are the EPA, Environmental Protection Agencies, look at labor laws. All these are examples of barriers that could come, or the factory inspectorate, and other requirements that you need to meet before you're able to start up your services or your product. Now, these critical factors that I mentioned earlier on, there are three tools that are used to collect information about these critical factors. And these are known as the first tool, which is the 5 C's. The second tool, which is the SWOT analysis. And there's the third tool, which is the pistol analysis. Now, the 5 C's, the first is C stands for company. And the company needs to have a vision. That is what it wants to be. Secondly, the company needs to have a mission, what it was established to do, specific objectives and specific goals, the things that it wants to achieve within a specific period of time, then activities, what it needs to undertake to go to achieve these specific goals and objectives. So that is the first C. And the second C stands for collaborators. And the collaborators are those that enables or provide support to the laboratory services in order to achieve its aims and objectives, or the goals and objectives. So now you have the suppliers, you have distributors, legal services, you have clearing agents. All these services are required to be able to help the laboratory to be able to achieve its aims and objectives. So these are the collaborators. Now we come to the competitors, as I mentioned earlier on. The competitors are those that offer similar services with the laboratory. And the competitors are in two forms. You have the direct competitors and the indirect competitors. And direct competitors are those that offer the same services with the same targeted customers as your laboratory. So in this case, for example, you have the Sinovac and the Sinopharm. Now, these are two Chinese companies that are involved in vaccine production. Now, during the time of COVID-19, there was a fierce competition between these two companies on the international market because they offer the same services, aiming at providing the same solution to the same customer base. So in this case, the competition between them is just direct. And when it comes to the indirect competitors, these are services or laboratory services that provide different means of solving solutions or providing solutions. That is, let's say in COVID-19 vaccine production and the production of face masks, hand sanitizers, hand soap, that are required to prevent transmission. Now, in all, this is preventing transmission, while this is also providing healthy solutions. That is making you healthy during transmission of COVID-19 or when you're being affected by COVID-19. So in this case, they are all providing different services, but all arriving at the same solution. That is prevention of COVID-19 virus from becoming the other C, which is the customers. It is important to note that you need to know the total number of customers that are interested in your product. And you can do that through what we call the survey. So you can send questionnaires to your various customer or your locations to find out customers that are interested in the product. So how is this done? So you need to look at the total population in the catchment area. So if I'm providing laboratory test, if I'm providing malaria test, if I'm providing a laboratory test, I need to look at the total number of people in the catchment area. And if I get to know the total number of people in the catchment area, this is referred to as the total population. Now the total population, among the total population, there are those that will be interested in my product. Those that are interested in my service or my product are what we refer to as the potential customers. Right? Now from the potential customers, we will look at available customers. Now the available customers are those that can pay for the services. So if you can pay for the services, you are identified as available customer. Now from the available customer, we need to look at what we call the legally qualified available customers. Now the legally qualified available customers are those that are permitted by law, even though they are interested and they can pay for the services, but then they need to be legally identified or legally qualified by the law of the state or the land to be able to pay for the services or not. Now, for example, marijuana is being legalized for medicinal purposes in Ghana. So while it is being legalized for medicinal purposes in Ghana, there are people who want to buy the marijuana, but the state of the law does not permit those people to pay or to buy that product. So here lies the case. Here in the case, the law has limited those people, right? But other pharmaceutical companies who are qualified now become people that are legally qualified to pay for the services, right? Then, when we look at, after looking at the legally available customers, we need to look at what we call the targeted customers. Now, the targeted customers are those people that the laboratory identified them as people who can pay for their services. So now if I'm producing the marijuana, the pharmaceutical companies now becomes my targeted customers, because they are those who will be interested, who can pay, and who will be legally qualified to pay for the laboratory services or not. Now, among the targeted customers that I have identified to be able to buy my product or services, those that will pay for the services are what we refer to as the penetrated customers. So the penetrated customers are those that have purchased the product or the services, and the services are being used. Now the last C, which is the climate. The climate analysis is done using the PISTOL analysis. Now, the PISTOL stands for political, economical, social, technological, environmental, and legal. So now political, these are government policies, government policies that provide solutions to the laboratory services. So now, government can bring in special initiative programs that can help cushion the laboratory services. You look at labor laws, for example, are also example for political factors that can help the laboratory services to perform well. Now, we will look at economical. Now, these exchange rates, unemployment rates, interest rates are all examples of economical factors that can influence the laboratory or the operation of the laboratory services. Now, look at the social factors. Now, the social factors such as age, religion, education are all examples of PISTOL analysis that are used to collect information about the critical factors. Now, when we come to the technological, and the technological factors are providing technological solutions that can provide easy and faster solutions for your laboratory services. Now, when we come to the legal factors are environmental laws, environmental conditions that to protect the environment from waste or harming the environment. So every laboratory waste that has to be produced has to be done such that, or the laboratory services has to be done such that the environment is not harmed, because this is where we derive our source. Then the last two is the SWOT analysis. Now the SWOT analysis stands for strengths, weaknesses, threats, and opportunities. So now you look at the strengths and weaknesses of a company, of other companies, and how you can also provide strength, use it as a strength to your company. Now threats and opportunities are these that sometimes are not controlled by the laboratory services, but these are more or less like external factors. So now, how do we devise a marketing strategy to be able to satisfy the needs of your customers? And we can do that through what we call the marketing strategy. So the marketing strategy is a game plan that the laboratory wishes to use in order to change prospective customers into loyal customers, in order to achieve and sustain competitive advantage over its competitors, and to effectively communicate this competitive advantage. So the marketing strategy must have two important ingredients, and that is your game plan, that is one, the competitive advantage, and the value of proposition. Now your competitive advantage are the factors that enables the laboratory to perform better than other laboratory services, or your company to perform better than other companies. This is what we refer to as a competitive advantage. Now the competitive advantage could be in the form of easy access to your location, cost effective, that is lesser cost, low cost of production of services, your product or services. We also look at good technological and good human resource. So once you have good technology and good human resource, these helps to provide a competitive advantage over other competitors of your services or your product. Now, the value of proposition is a short sentence that communicates the number one reason why your service or product is suited for each customer segment. Now, the value proposition, it must be readable, that is being easily readable, it must be self-explanatory, and it must be direct. For example, MTN, and you all know the response, right? Everywhere you go. Other companies will say, my services is to service with speed. That is his or her value proposition. So now, your competitive advantage must be communicated in the value proposition. That is, if you are providing service with speed, then, which is your competitive advantage, then it must reflect in your value of proposition. For instance, MTN says that everywhere you go, their product or their services is accessible. So in this case, in their value of proposition, it said MTN, everywhere what you go, your services are easily accessible. So now, your competitive advantage comes in two forms. That is the differential cost or the cost advantage. Now, the cost advantage is when a laboratory is offering the same services as its competitors, but at a lesser cost. However, the differential cost is when the laboratory is offering better services than its competitors. Now, there are 7 areas that must be considered for a marketing strategy for a service provider. And these are known as the 7 P's of marketing mix. And these 7 P's, the first one is the product. That is what the laboratory is providing and the reason for its services. Then the other one is the price. The second P is the price. Now, the price is what is offered in exchange for the product or the services. Now, there are several ways of pricing a particular product in terms of marketing strategy. Now, we have what we call the premium pricing. The premium pricing is when a laboratory is offering a service that other competitors do not offer that service and therefore charges a higher price for that service. Let's say, for instance, COVID-19 vaccination is not done in Ghana here. So if a company is providing this vaccination, producing this vaccine, because there is no other competitor that is offering this service, the laboratory service can decide, or the manufacturing company can decide to charge a higher amount for that service as compared to the competitors. Now, as the laboratory continues to provide its services at a higher rate because no one is providing that other service, as time goes on, your competitors will also learn about these your strengths that you have and will also try to bring in a counter strength to yours. So other laboratories begin to provide that same vaccination services. Now, when it happens that way, you begin to reduce the price of your products or services. And this is what we term as the skimming pricing. Now, after the skimming pricing, because the other laboratories are now coming in to provide these new laboratory services or new vaccination services, they also begin to charge a lower price because they want to attract certain segments of the market, right? So now they charge a lower price in order to attract certain segments of the market. And this is what we call the penetration pricing. Now, from the penetration pricing, we come to what we call the economic pricing. Now, when the laboratory services all are providing the same services for a longer period of time, other services can decide to charge a lower services as compared to other laboratory services. So when so doing, the cost is lesser, and therefore other customers that are attracted to or that are sensitive to the cost will begin to purchase your product or services at an advantage to the laboratory services or the manufacturers. Also, you look at the psychological pricing. The psychological pricing is when the laboratory is offering discounts for the product. So here lies the case, it's not entirely a laboratory service. So look at Jumia services. Now Jumia is providing a discount, and the discount on all of its products is just a psychological pricing that is to attract certain segments of its market. All right. Now, you look at the fixed pricing. So now we have other laboratory services that they want to maintain the price for a longer period of time. As whether there are changes in economic situations or not, they will still want to maintain that pricing. So these are known as the fixed pricing. So they maintain the pricing over a long period of time without changing the pricing. Now, the other P, when you move from the price, is the promotion. So now promotion is using diverse means to sell the product or the services. We have marketing, media marketing, we have public relations that will be selling up the product for you. So now as you have social media all over, social media could be one means of promoting the laboratory services. The other P stands for people. Now the human resource that is providing the service, their attitude, their communication, their smiles are all important. And when there is a lack in this, others could refer or customers refer to your laboratory services as not being capable or poor laboratory services. Right. Then we also look at the processes that the laboratory use in delivering of its services. We have quality control means, we have quality assurance, we have the flowchart diagram, we have the inspection of laboratory services, we have good manufacturing practices. All these are things that are put in place in order to provide reliable and sustainable laboratory services or products. So now we look at physical evidence. Now the physical evidence is basically the structures. So the lighting, the location, how nice, serene the place is, also count it as a marketing means of providing a means of marketing strategy. Now we are looking at service as a topic on its own. So now, a service is an act, and a good is a product. So a service refers to a form of transaction in which physical product is not transferred from the buyer to the seller, and it is also intangible. Intangible in the sense that you can't touch, right? You can't hold, you can't smell. It cannot be felt by the sense organs. However, a laboratory service is an act that is provided to customers. Now, customers will want to describe the state of a laboratory services on your assistance to them before, during, and after they purchasing your product or your services. That's your services. So now it is highly important that your customer service or your laboratory services are always satisfied with your customers. And your customers are also satisfied with your laboratory services. We also want to look at the characteristics of a service. Now, a service cannot be stored nor transferred. So once a service is provided, it ceases to exist. Once it ceases to exist, you can't store, neither can you transfer it to another customer. Now, a service is consumed at the point of production. So while a service is being rendered, the service is being consumed by the customer. Because whatever attitude, how calm, how nice you are to your customer will tell the customer how quality your service or the services that you are providing is. Now, a service cannot be of the same quality in the sense that when services is being provided by two different customers or two different laboratory services, these services cannot be quantified. So there is no way that they can be of the same standard at every point in time. Unlike product that has specifications that has to be met at every point in time, customer service does not conform to that. Now, we are looking at the most important or one of the important aspects of laboratory services in terms of its marketing as the financial feasibility studies. Now, one of the two important things that you need to look at is the income that is to be gotten from the customers, and the last one, the expenses of the laboratory. At every point in time during financial feasibility studies, your income has to be greater or equal to the expenses. If your expenses is greater than the laboratory services that you are providing or the income you are getting from your customers, then you should know that you are running at a loss. There are expenses that one must look at, and these expenses are the fixed expenses. Now, these fixed expenses are always fixed at every point in time. Your lights will always be on because you want to provide good illumination. You will always provide security because you want your place to be protected from burglars. Other fixed services such as insurance, as whether laboratory is running or not, you need to insure the place. As to whether laboratory is running or not, you have to still pay for taxes and other services. So these are fixed expenses that are not dependent on the number of customers that is being served. We also have what we call the variable expenses. Now, the variable expenses are expenses that changes based on the number of customers served. It's affected by three things. That is one, the price of the consumable. Now, if I'm doing the malaria test or I'm conducting a malaria test, the test kit that I use in the reagents are expenses. These are what I buy from my suppliers. So these are an expense. Then to the laboratory staff or the person that is providing the service also has to be paid. So these, after every service, there's an amount that is being located for the laboratory staff that is being deducted out. Then the overhead costs. Now, the overhead costs are other essential services like water, lights, your fan, your instruments, and other devices that you are using. All comes under the overhead cost. So the more the customer you serve, the higher the variable cost goes up. Now we have what we call the owner's annual income. Now, some laboratory services or some entrepreneurs are fond of what we call the owner's draw. So the owner's draw is where the owner of the company or the owner of the laboratory services just pick up money direct from the finance from the coffers of the services that you are providing of the company or the organization on monthly basis without accountability. But here, another expense that we need to look at is the owner's annual investment profit. Right? So now, your source of money for running the business can be self-loan. It can also be a loan from a financial company. Pick up the loan. Your aim should not just be to pay the loan and the interest. But here lies the case, you want to run the business such that you're able to pay for the loan, pay for the interest, and have additional profits. And this profit is reinvested back into the business. So in so doing, you are managing the laboratory such that within the number of years, you will be in a situation where you no longer have to go and borrow money to be able to run the business or to keep the business running, because the interest on yearly basis or monthly basis is reinvested back into the business. Now we look at what we called the variable margin profit. Now the variable marginal profit is to provide an additional money or additional profit that will cater for the owner's annual income, the other fixed expenses, and the owner's annual investment profit. and additional profit that will help the laboratory to run. So it is important that all these come together to form what we call the cost price of the service. So these come together to form what we call the cost price of the service. So the cost price of the service entails the cost of the utilities, that is the overhead cost, the consumable, the staff, and the variable marginal profit. So as we move from here, we look at calculations on how to determine these individually and how to determine whether the laboratory will be sustainable or not.